Gaming NBS, episode 330, being recorded Monday, February 22nd, 2021. Welcome to Gaming NBS, a tabletop RPG podcast. I'm Sean.
And I'm Brett. Welcome to the show, folks. Welcome back. Glad you're all here. Sean, how the hell are you, man?
I'm doing fantastic, Brett. How are you? Hey, Brett, do this.
I can't. I'm not doing that yet, no.
Wiggling my head back and forth.
Took a nap, so that felt good.
Yeah. Did you take a short nap, or did you take 4-hour nap?
No, about an hour and a half.
That's a good nap.
It felt really good because now I feel awake. Because before I'm like, I got to record with Sean in about an hour and a half. I can't keep my eyes open. I better go lay down. So, wow, it seemed to do the trick. I feel refreshed.
I know Brett is napping before the show because if he's not, he's usually hit me up like, hey, I could be ready at 7:30. Hey, I'm ready whenever you are. But when it goes all the way up until like the 8 o'clock hour and I haven't heard anything from Brett, I'm like,
where is he?
I am actually almost picked up my phone and was like, hey, dude, you coming? Yeah. And then before I knew it, Brett's like, Hey, Sean, how's it going?
I'm waking up.
I just got done with a nap.
Apparently growing bones is hard work on my old man body, so, yeah.
Well, in your body.
Yeah.
Bones like,
hey. Bones like, whoa, we stopped doing this ages ago. We're trying to atrophy now. Come on. Fucking melding new shit in here. What's going on? All right, enough of that crap. Hey, did you get any gaming in since we talked last? You did, didn't you? You had a little Forbidden Lands action, didn't you?
I did get in Forbidden Lands, yeah, first session.
How'd it go? Did they all quit?
They did not quit.
All
not
right.
that I know of. I mean,
I haven't heard any. No one is. I have not gotten the private message that, dear Brett, I don't know how to tell Sean. How do you break up with Sean? I didn't get any of that. So far so good.
It went okay. It went okay. I think it went as well as everybody expected, I hope. So one of the guys is already out of food. Phil's guy's already out of food. I'm like, how are you already out of food? He's like, rogues only get a D6 food starting.
Can't carry a lot of food if you're going to be sneaky.
And you roll a food roll, and if you roll a 1, you got to go down a die.
Wow.
So that happened. They killed a boar.
Good.
Which allowed them to eat without spending food. They could have kept it and dressed it, but I think it would have taken more, and then they could use it to use 2 slots or 1 slot of food. And then they came across a farmhouse, a dilapidated farmhouse, and came across a leaflet of a journal or a book of some kind.
Okay.
And then they camped, and I think it was Phil, the goblin, Groms, who was supposed to make camp, and he failed his camp roll, and he has a tent. So in Forbidden Lands, the way it works is you roll your camping roll, make camp, and he rolled, and he failed. So he could put, and he had on one of his gear dice, he had a 1. Okay, so on the first roll, the 1s don't mean anything. The second roll, if you decide to push, then that 1 comes into action, right? So since it would be gear, if he pushed his roll and failed, then his gear would take damage, and he didn't want to damage his tent.
Okay.
Right. So if you see the dynamics of this game, it's kind of interesting. So he's like, I don't want to damage my tent. So he failed the roll. So there's a camping mishap. And so you roll on the camping mishap table, and then they woke up and there were bugs that were eating their food. And that's how they lost food.
And did they all look at him and say, you did that because you didn't want to damage your tent, dick?
Well, what happens, the way I pictured
Is that what happened?
And so in Forbidden Lands, it's interesting because I could see these guys, when we start getting into the flow of things and like, all right, here's a good place to camp, and they roll and they succeed, and they're like, yeah, this is pretty nice, Or if they fail, they go, "Oh, are you sure? Sure we should stay here, like in this spot? Oh yeah, it'll be fine. I mean, everything will be fine."
Yeah, we don't know enough of how it works yet to really get the RP right. I need to get the role playing components of it. Once you catch, it was similar to me with the Fantasy Flight thing. I think once I got in the groove of how the dice worked and the symbols, then everybody's chipping in.
Right,
everybody's bouncing off your good or your bad or your average roll. They're giving you in-game shit or in-game praise or in-game,
So they know that he failed, and they're like, "Great, you sure this is the right place to camp?" He's like, "Oh yeah, it'll be fine. I know. I don't want to do it over there. I'll ruin my tent." Right? And so they go through. Mishap is that insects got in their food and ate some of the food. So that's how they lost food. And they're like, they open up and there's insects eating their food and stuff. So he might have, found a place on top of an anthill or something like that, and they got in there.
That's funny.
So, and then of course, Wayne's guy Maruk, the orc, during the battle with the boar, put a nick in his blade, and so he opted to try to fix it. And then we had a debate on that, right? So it was, I'm like, "Well, Wayne, how do you fix it?" Because he's like, "Well, I got craft," and I'm like, "You do, but do you have the materials to fix it?" If you were crafting a bow, I'd say, well, you got this, and you can get it from a tree, and Harrigan help.
There's certain things you can make or not make in the wild. I mean, depending on what you got for blade, how bad the nick is. I've dinged up a knife before, pull out the sharpening stone and kind of put an edge back on it. But certain chips are like, I have to reprofile this whole damn thing.
Right, and it's not
easy.
Broken, right? As soon as the blade takes all the damage, then it is considered broken. So we put a nick in his blade, and then he tried to get it out. So by getting it out, if you succeed, you fix it.
Mm-hmm.
If you fail, in this particular instance, then the damage that is done is permanent.
Yeah, I like you and I talked about this a little bit off mic. I'm like, I don't know if I ever want to play that game, because I don't know if that would drive me bananas.
Oh, these guys love it. They love the fact that they have nothing and that one guy's already out of food.
Although I got to say, I want to play it.
Yeah.
Even if it's just to find out, wow, I didn't like that at all. Even if that's the outcome, I don't care. I think at some point I'm going to get in on a game with you, have you run it, I'm going to play it and go, wow. Because I think it's one of those games that I need to get in the mindset of it. No preconceived notions. Don't bring in any complaints. Don't bring in we don't like Star Wars. We sit in a ship and shoots people. Don't
we
do
refer to that as baggage, Brett.
Yeah, no baggage. Yes, no, no stupid. Bring in just a clear mind as possible. I think if I got into it, I'd have a good time. I think sometimes I'm when I'm hearing what you're saying, well, God, I don't know, would I ever want to freaking do that? But I'm thinking outside of the context of everybody doing the same thing.
So now
that could be fun. I don't know. We'll see.
So we kind of managed that fixed part because Harrigan was like, when these things happen, yes, it's a resource intensive game, but you also want people to be able to do kind of things, right? They're like, and so when you start doing that, then you start playing with difficulty dice. Then you can say, I'm going to add a die, take a die.
And I can see it so your sword is slightly damaged. It has X number of points to it before it's totally broken.
Yes.
And there's a point where look, I don't care until I hit the halfway of damage points. Now I'm worried.
Right.
So there's oh, well, the sword's got 10 points. I expect to take 3 to 5 points of normal damage anyway before I have to really get serious. So you can kind of shrug off the first couple, and then you start getting paranoid. I can see that. Cool. And let's see, what the hell did I do, man? I got I should say, did you get any other gaming in, or was that it?
I did not. That was it. And then I streamed on Saturday for quite a while. Thanks to everybody that showed up and kept me company. I think on Saturdays I'm going to have people call in on Skype.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, call in. It's a radio show. Call it RPG Radio. Call in. You're the ninth caller. Caller, what do you have to say?
Caller 9. Well, sometimes crazy ones get in. Click.
Pretty much.
I did. I got my buddy Alpha ran Dungeon of the Mad Mage.
Dungeon of the Mad Mage.
And we got everybody on board with the fact that Lenny's character is a Kenku called Gurgle Gluck, which is the thing he says for almost everything. Gurgle Gluck. He's a Kenku, so that's one of the noises he makes. And so we're Gurgle's gang. We're because we're absolutely fucking lost. We have no idea what to do or where to go. So we decided we're gonna make a mercenary company. We're gonna do the best we can to survive down here. And apparently we accidentally kicked a really big hornet's nest of drow, and they're really, really mad at us. Which makes sense because we killed a lot of them before we had to finally run away. So yeah, we're in a bit of trouble. But we're surviving. So far so good. I think we fought like 12 Minotaurs or something this last time. Not bad. Did okay. But it's getting sketchy. Getting a little sketchy.
Yeah, as Blake would say, a Kenku, a murder. A murder, a murder. A murder
Yes.
by murder.
Yes, a murder of Kenku. I've got Greyhawk tomorrow with the guys. They're leaving Gorna, the main capital, and they're going into the mountains. They've got a dwarven guide, so now they've got a little extra hit point meat to go with them. Got an 8th level dwarf who's going out with them. So, as I think I said this last time, Sean, we're going to jack up the XP awards because
To 11.
it's been a while since I played it, and I'm like, okay, cool, this is working. And then because of the alternating level bumps for the different classes and stuff, everyone's fine with it being, oh, you leveled up before me because you're a thief. Excuse me. Yes, that's fine. Oh, you leveled up before me because you're a whatever. That's fine. However, some of the stuff we want to be able to do comes down to like the FACO charts, right? The to hit chart, and that's almost like the great equalizer in that. For my group, anyway, I think it's because their dice suck so bad. They've got some magic.
Understand.
Exactly. That's what I'm telling you. They've got some good magic items. They should be able to hit stuff. AC 4 should not be out of their range, but sometimes it's way the fuck out of their range. So, but there'll be some mountain climbing trails, giant eagles, bugbears, giants. It'll be a good time. We'll see if anybody bites it next session. So that'll be fun. Any let's see here. Announcement wise, I'll lead off here. Real quick, I was on Craig Shipman's Third Floor Wars, the Tabletop Talk. Craig pulled me in there last Wednesday. From the look of it, he's thinking May, early April timeframe when he'll be able to get that out based on his schedule. And it's an interview format.
May.
And it's gonna be a while.
He's that far ahead, huh?
Yeah, he's really getting out. And one of the cool thing I think that when we talked a lot of just different, who you are, gaming, history, blah, blah, blah. And then he asked me a lot of really, really, really good Avalon questions. I think apart from when you interviewed me, Sean, this is the best one I've done. Yours was really good in a really good way, pre-Kickstarter, so on and so forth. But like post, now a year into it, why would I want to buy that book, get into it or whatever? He really did a good job. Really good job. So pretty pleased. That was a lot of fun. And he's just a cool dude to talk to. So we did talk about the Blades in the Dark game.
Yeah.
And he said, we got to find another guy. I said, it's going to be Eric Frankhouse. He said, oh, really? You're so sure? I said, look, Sean and I each got a text from Eric Frankhouse that basically said, you fuckers, if you play that without me.
He brought that. I had Craig on the show actually Saturday morning. He's the guy that called in for Skype.
That's awesome.
He mentioned Frank. He mentioned Eric without actually knowing. He couldn't remember who it was. I'm like, it's Eric.
Frankhouse. Yeah, it's Frankhouse.
He's like, oh, that's right. Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Oh, yeah. We'll get the Iron GM in there. So I think it'll be you, me, and he, and then Craig will run for us when he gets that scheduled up. So that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Anyway, what else have we got, man? We've been cranking through the BSers to run games. I mean, if you're a BSer and you haven't been on our forums, Sean, tell them what they've won. It's
That's right, Brett.
Going on.
That's right, Brett. If you just head over to gamingnbs.com/games, that'll take you to a forward post where it outlines the gaming moot and the gaming roundtable. They are not mutually exclusive. You post in the spreadsheet if you're looking for games, and there's games listed there. So if you want to run a game, you list your game that you want to run and some more details about it. But if you're looking for games, there's also a player sheet. You can put down like, hey, here's some of the game, for the games listed, put your name under it because you're interested. Because then the game masters can come and poke through there and say, hey, I want to run that game. Since there's 4 people that are interested in it, I'll hit those 4 people up. And then you could use the forums to post like, hey, I'm Brett. If you have any questions about any of the games under Brett, just post here and I will answer them. And then you can use the forms for mustering.
So how many games we got out there? Like 2, 3, 4?
So we have
10?
I think we have a little less than 10 game masters, but we have over 30 different types of games. They're all like, there's a couple Delta Green, Delta Force, different thing. Delta Green, so I didn't count them twice, but we have over 20, at least 30. Paragon mentioned it was over 30 this afternoon.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
So anyway, if you're a BSer and you want to play something, even if you're like, look, I've always run, I think VC's got a Delta Green on Thursday this week.
He is. So VC, I conned him into doing a one session one shot. He was going to have a session 0 and a session 1, and scheduling was going to get kind of finicky, I think. And so he's in defense of him, he's running the same thing for another group that wanted to do character gen. And so he's like, all right, I'll do session 0. You guys can do character gen. I'm like, man, we don't have to. If everybody is good with pre-gens, let's put them out there. We'll pick them and then we'll play on Thursday. And he's like, all right. So
I'm trying to look at through my calendar, see if I can make that sucker.
We're 3 players, me, Hobbs, and Mike. With
work and everything else I got going this week, I've hit a level of normality now with my personal schedule. So I'm trolling through there. There's some really good stuff. There's some good stuff out there. And,
there's tons of good stuff, man. And none of them are D&D.
No.
None. 0 5e.
Yeah, a lot of not D&D out there. I feel almost obligated to run a 5e game just because. Why not? Just because. Just have everybody go, what the fuck is wrong with that guy?
Right? How come you have negative 10 people sign up for your? Is that possible?
People wrote and said they won't play with me again for 10 more years. This is terrible. No, if you're a BSer, if you're listening to us, which means you are, and you're like, hey, if you have played online before, or if you haven't, or if you've been want to do something different, whatever, this is a great opportunity. Think of this kind of like as an ad hoc con, if you will. You know, you could look at it and say, hey, you know what? I really wanted to play a PBTA game. I wonder if something's out there. Scroll through the shit, man. Take a look. If somebody's running Delta Green, you always thought, hey, Brett, Sean, I've talked about it. I've heard about it. I've only run it, never had a chance to play it. Someone's running Call of Cthulhu. Someone's running whatever is out there. Scroll through it, man. You might find something kind of interesting. There's a Conan 2D20 out there. Sean's played in one. I'm playing in one. Actually, I got a session this Friday. My buddy's kicking that back into gear. It'll be our 3rd session. There's some good stuff out there. So if you're interested at all, take a look. And these are BSers running games for BSers. So right there, you've got some quality right out of the gate. So that's pretty cool.
I'm considering running Forbidden Lands every 2 weeks. And then the other off week is trying to play in any of those games. Because shit, man, I could play a lot of games.
Yeah, that's once you and I were talking about that off the mic, I'm like, you know, I was like trying to figure out, well, I got to run game. I got to run. I'm like, well, I need to run something. Yeah, but I could just fill my schedule with some really cool shit and just sit back and play a game. That could be, damn, a lot of fun stuff out there. Anyway,
yeah,
so that's
Cold Shadows is listed. Blake mentioned Cold Shadows. It's listed on there, Blake.
Yeah, get out there and take a look.
Actually, it's not listed to play or to run, me running it. It's on the to play list. So if you put interest in there and I go, oh, there's 3 or 4 people that are interested, and I'll fire it up. Yeah.
Nice.
Anyway, so check it out. I'm going to start pushing it hard. It's going to be mentioned on every show, and it's going to be put out on Twitter and all this other stuff. So, you know, it's Brett, it's like you said, it's strangely like a con, but the day isn't on a particular weekend or Friday slot. It's a game.
Yep.
So you search by game first, your preference, or by game master. Maybe like, I want to play in Brett's game or whatever.
Yep.
And then we coordinate a time to make it happen. And hopefully if every game master on there can literally run 1 game a month, that's it. 2 to 4 hours. That's it. We could have a lot of games.
Fuck yeah. That's really cool.
There you go. We're still futzing around with calendars and shit too, in case that might be an option for our SVP, and we'll see.
I'll tell you the other piece to that point is, and I'll shut the hell up about it. We'll move on. But as we go through this is new. This is new for Sean and I. Digital Habit, Mirko is helping us out with some stuff. We got a lot of cool people throwing in, saying, I'll do. And we've got these people putting in data, right? So it's great. We're going to iterate through this. At some point, one of y'all is going to send some feedback to us that says, hey, you know what would be helpful is a calendar that had these features. how the hell could we find that? You know what would be helpful is this feature. Maybe we should add that in. So obviously not everybody's ideas are going to be able to be, crammed in and make it all work. But if there's enough of a outcry for something, Sean and I'll figure out what the hell do we have to do to try it, to see what we can do to make it better. So cool. All right. You ready, man? Random encounter?
Dude, I'm so ready.
Random encounter. Let's go.
Segment, fielding comments from social media, forums.
You start.
I will start, apparently. From all part of the plan on the forums regarding injecting homebrew into published, which would have been last episode. He or she writes, full disclosure, I have not yet listened to this episode.
Which means you're probably already ahead of us. It's fine. It's totally good. It's good.
Which means that your credibility of this post is even higher.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yes.
Right, yeah. Yes. I missed the chance to make this comment last time pre-published adventures came up as a topic. I just wanted to throw out a theory and see if people agree. I do not like to run pre-published adventures, but I wish I did. Oh, and I should mention, Edwin Nagy this is one of his pet peeves. Pre-published. It should just be published. I don't know why or
because
how.
It's pre-made, pre-generated. It's pre-done for you, and then we say published. We tag it on there. And you're right. The phrase pre-published should be, it's like my Avalon notes, not the actual book that was out. Yeah.
Right.
Interesting, but we all call it that. We know what it means.
We do.
It's a terrible phrase, but we know what it means. Interesting.
So I know how to get under Edwin's skin now, which I should have never put on the forums.
Yeah, we're going to have to send him some pre-published notes. So pre-published.
Irregardless of what he says. I continue. Sorry, Edwin. I'm just kidding, buddy.
All right.
Lost
another one.
My interference here.
Inference.
Interference.
What the hell? We got pre-published interference flagging a play.
Pass interference.
Carry on.
We're never going to get to the end of this.
No, we're not.
In my inference here is that people prefer pre-published or homebrew based on whichever one is easier for them to do. I don't think either has an innate advantage. I think DMs all just prefer to do the least amount of work. An example, I've tried to read modules to run them. I just get so bored that I have never successfully read one all the way through. I have skimmed through it to the end of the first module in Tales from the Yawning Portal, and to date, that is the best I could manage. However, with homebrew campaigns, I could prep for a session in 30 to 60 minutes, no sweat. I have serious respect for people who can run pre-published anything because I just don't seem to have the skills to pay those bills. Hey, people who like homebrew more, I imagine, are in my boat, where it's easier to slap something together now, then fill in the more tedious details during actual play. My hat is off to Sean, who inspires me every couple of months to try reading through and running a real module instead of just relying on my usual BS.
I think there's absolutely some validity in here. However, I wonder, and all part of the plan isn't here for us to have the conversation with them, but I would wonder, did you start running homebrew stuff when you started GMing, or did you cut your teeth on published and then switch? I wonder. And the reason I say that is because if I think back, this report made me think back to when I started. I ran my own stuff like right away because I did not have a lot of money, and I got the rules, and that was the extent of my money, right? So if there was a module in the adventure, in Minster's Red Box, there was a module, oh, cool, I could run a piece of it. That was like level 1 of a dungeon. The rest of it, level 2, was mapped out, but I had something I had to do. I had stuff to build in. I had things I had to do. But anyway, I rapidly was making my own because I could not afford to go out and spend any money on a pre-made one. The modules, it just wasn't happening. But yeah, I think if nothing else, once you get past the initial where you started, there is it's easier for me to just do my own thing than it is to read somebody else's thing and then make it into my thing. It innately feels like more work to me, when in fact, probably really isn't that bad. Do you agree with that, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, I see the advantages to both. Seriously, either way. I mean, it's not, and he or she mentions it right away that there's no better way. It's just whatever works for you. So I get the advantage of making it up. I really do, because when you're running published stuff, you do tend to you kind of have to say, okay, here's everything, and I got to keep my ducks in a row. Where if you're just kind of doing your own thing, it's all here, right? I mean,
yeah.
Published it is too, but at the same time, I don't have to reference to make sure I'm like dotting the I's and crossing the T's to ensure that I'm not messing up what's in the book.
Yeah, if I want to do it as it's written, or I want to keep it so that I've got the least amount of flow or issues, yeah.
Right.
I think one of the key pieces here, too, is that neither one is better.
No.
There is a stigma, if you will, that some people will like to attach to something like, oh, you run published adventures. Well, I've been running my own campaign for the last... Yeah, fuck off. That stuff is just garbage. That's some bizarre form of keeping/looking down on you because they're more creative than you, because the hobby is very creative. If you hear that shit, tune that person out. Literally, just stop that conversation, walk away, find something else you've got to do. That if you run into that's just garbage. But anyway, good stuff though. Thank you for the write-in. That's really handy. It's good. It's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Gabe comments on injecting homebrew into published as well. We're of a sort. For me, it's much more difficult trying to understand an adventure, how all the disparate pieces come together into something meaningful, or not, because one is reliant on the ability of the original author, than just to make one up. If I make it up, I automatically understand it. Bonus! Also, one can make it up in whatever way is ideal and efficient, be it through sketches, lists, notes, or dense narrative. I tend to use all of these. With pubs, in most cases, you're going to be deciphering text and interpreting intent. That is valid. And I can tell you, I have met some people, I think Sean does a great job with this, are really good at deciphering text and interpreting intent. Alex Kammer, I think, is really good at it. He posts something up about Rime of the Frostbane. He goes, oh, and it has some issues. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I mentioned that on Saturday.
I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? And he said, oh, it has this, this, this. I'm like, huh. Yeah, you're right. Interesting. I didn't see them as issues because I'm like, I don't know, I'll deal with it when it happens, right? But he's reading through this as a guy who's written a number of, like, he wrote Sea King's Malice, which is a hefty book. He's gone through this to ensure the intent and ensure all the key main pieces are covered. So when he speaks about that stuff, I'm like, huh, interesting. It's like when Edwin says stuff. Edwin's done a bunch of work for Fraud God and so on. So when guys like that, anyone like that, I mean, not just the boys, obviously Jen Brinkman and I have had conversations too, and other people within the hobby, and Jen does a lot of different editorial passes and stuff for Goodman Games, and I've talked to other folks. Anyway, point being is some people are really, really good at deciphering the text, interpreting the intent, and making it go. And they're really good at it. And yeah, for some folks like myself, sometimes that's extra work I don't want to deal with, or I'm just not as good at it. So I like that. I like that the way Gabe broke that up. That's pretty cool. Thanks, man.
Yeah, thanks, Gabe.
Over to you, Sean.
All right. Tom's got a little story for us. Hey, gather around, children. Tom comments on slow burn versus hot start. I became a bit notorious for my hot starts. The players loved it, but I stopped doing it because it was starting to feel cliche. My best was my first one, though. We were playing Rollmaster. Everyone had created first-level characters, and we sat down to play. I said, go ahead. Take about 10 minutes and do a quick and dirty upgrade of your character to 20th level. Any spells, armor, or weapons that you want. Once everyone, confused, had done so, I said, okay, your allied forces have fallen. The priest and his top minions remain. They're bringing back the dark gods, and the ritual is nearly complete. Roll for initiative. Any questions they had, I replied to with, I'll tell you after the fight.
That's not important right now. You see that thing in front of you? That's what's important right now. Worry about that other shit later. And I love it. I love it. Love it. Love it.
They fought and were brought down one by one, but taking out their opponents and delaying completion of the ritual. Finally, the ritual was completed and rift opened in the sky, allowing God of Dark entry. At the same time, there was a yell from a messenger at the back. You did it! You brought us enough time! As the last PC fell, another rent opened in the rift. Rent opened up in the sky as the gods of light returned, charging across the heavens to battle the gods of dark. As everything faded and the last PC died, Armageddon waged overhead. Then I told everyone, you awake. You have no clothes and no belongings. You're on a hillside that you don't recognize. You have no memories beyond what has already been described. You know your names and each other's names. Switch back to the first level character sheets. What do you do? The phrase naked on a hillside became a running joke for years afterward, especially any time someone lost consciousness.
I like that.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
And I kind of want to know what happened after that with that campaign, because my head went, what did he do with it, right? Was this now you're going to walk all the way to 20th level and it happens again? Now you're going to go back and retrofit it? Or did you start all over as blessed of the gods and you're in a whole new world with like some weird, I don't know. Wow. That's cool. That's cool. Thanks, man.
Naked on a hillside.
Naked on a hill. Thanks, Tom. I like it. Eric Salzweedle tweets in on the problem with examples. Well, it's something we're talking about here in a minute. Hot take. Sometimes the answer is on your character sheet. I like this. I've seen this going around quite a bit, and I get the point. There's some value in the philosophy as players can become paralyzed on what to do if their character sheet doesn't have the specific skill, feat, ability, or whatever. What I have seen with online play, though, is players don't look at their character sheet and what gear they're carrying. This is particularly important in a sci-fi game where you may collect a lot of items that provide utility for you to deal with various situations. I've run into this in sci-fi. I get where he's going here.
I've had this happen at cons all the time. Like me personally, like, hey, you, Mr. Smith. You're playing Mr. Smith, right? Yep. You may want to take a look at your things down there below on the character sheet. Like, oh shit! I got a keypad that can get us into doors. Okay.
Exactly. Oh right. Fuck. If I had known that, this whole thing would have been faster. I even created a good Google character sheet for the players in my last game so that they had a central place where all gear was and who had it and if it was in the armory on their ship. I still had many moments where I thought, man, this would be easier for the players if they just used their rocket boots, mag boots, grenades, you name it. Am I complaining? Sort of, I guess. At least in my Solar Blades game, I felt like I was generous with gear because I wanted my players to do cool things with it. I'm a fan of the players and wanted to see that cool stuff happen. I tell you, Eric, I have had that happen before. From a con perspective, Sean, to your point, I've tried a couple different character sheet options, and what I have found is the front page of character sheet. Do not go 2 pages with a character sheet for the games I'm running, if ever possible. If the second page is someone says, "Oh, I'm a spellcaster," and you hand that person 2 pages, they go, yes. The second page is my spells. And they go through it and they figure out what they have. But everybody else is like, whack, first page. Stats, basic, and this. I don't normally, like if I'm running a Streets of Babylon game, I'm not looking for a detailed list of how many Pythons you have, how many torches you have, blah, blah, blah. It's not what I'm doing in a con game especially, but it's all the key shit is right there on the front page. Because people will scour the front page and then they'll flip it over if there's something on the back, if there's another sheet, But some of that depends on the game system you're running, too. Some of those game systems, depending on what they are pretty fucking intense. Character sheet-wise, there's a lot on them, and you can't just capture it on a single page.
I have played at for whatever reason, and it's not because I go to like 20 different cons, so take that into consideration for context, but I've played at Gary Con, and we'll play an AD&D game, and for whatever reason, the sheets that I get, like I think I played in one of Frank's games, and it was like a sheet, I don't know, like he must have done in like 1984. It's typed out, obviously with a word processor, but it's literally just name, class, level, race, and then, return, strength, wisdom, dex, like across, return, list. It's just, dude, would it have killed you just to get a freaking character sheet and filled in the blanks? Guys, like it wasn't hard to navigate, kinda, because you could just read through it, but it was just it's like somebody was writing a Word document.
And I'll tell you the other thing with character.
What in the hell?
We've talked about this a bit before. The other thing with character sheets too is that, and this is why when we talked about them last as a show topic, I've become a proponent of make your own damn character sheet.
Sure.
If you can, document it, draw on it, do whatever you got to do, color it, whatever helps you figure it out. If you hand me a character sheet, and I hand them out, or somebody, and you're the person next to me, and dude, you got your colored pencils and anything that relies on strength, you color in red and green. I don't give a shit, whatever it does to help you. But there's some bad character sheets out there, and there's other stuff that I'm like, oh, there's obviously a really good one. I hand it to somebody, and they vomit all over it. They're like, this is terrible. I can't find anything. Like, what?
Sure.
But I get what you're saying. Some of it, like, you can hear the IBM selector kicking in the air, as he typed it out. You can hear it.
Like, what in the hell is this bullshit? Like, don't you have some of the original yellow sheets?
Something? Come on now. God damn it. Stuff I'm actually used to.
Right.
Very nice. Cool, though.
Thanks.
Eric. Thanks, Eric. That was good.
Yeah, he put that tweet out. As I said, we were putting the topic out there, so I thought it was interesting.
Shall we then?
We shall. Let's get into the main topic. Brett.
So Ray Otis is back. I say back with a vengeance because Ray seemed to have bailed on a little bit of social media for a while. Boy, when that guy comes back, he's refreshed. I think our forums like wham, 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 wham. Ray Otis stamps all over the place, which is awesome. I love Ray. So he came back, he laid this idea on us. He said, the problem with examples, he said, I get it. In a game where you can literally do anything, quote unquote, some players, call them type O for overwhelmed, will become confused and need some examples of what they could do. But once the author gives examples, those can become prescriptive, and type L gamers, L as in literal, think that's the only things they can do. This is why some players look at their character sheet to see what their character can do rather than just thinking in character. What are some techniques for moving players past examples? And I said, when I read this one, I'm like, oh my God, I can't tell you how many times this has happened to me, even with my home group. I've got guys who've been playing for as long as I have, if not longer, and they're like, well, I don't know what this guy can do. What are you trying to do? Well, I don't know what I can do. That's not what I asked you. What is it that you want to do? Well, I'm not sure what's possible. So, you're just patient, heavy breathing, just slow, let the rage subside. Sean, have you run into this where the examples become almost overly prescriptive, where somebody goes, I could see it happening definitely with new players, but I have indeed encountered it with old sea salts that should know better, blah, blah, blah. But, you get these examples sometimes, especially with a new game system, like, oh, this is the only thing you can do in Forbidden Lands. Okay, I got it. Do you run into this ever? Where someone takes something too literal, the idea or the concept?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I get it all. You play for a little while. You see it all. You just see it all, Brett. It's
Chinatown, man. It's Chinatown. Nothing you can do about it. It's just Chinatown.
I've seen it all. Yeah, I think that occurs. And then I also think that people will end up going off the rails. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. Hold on a second. Not so sure that kind of fits with the whole program here, buddy. You know? So I think it's like.
I think there's something to be said. I'm going to touch on the session zero component of this up front. Sometimes I think there's something to be said for making sure everyone understands the premise of what the game is about. Sometimes it's like, look, it's Cold Shadows. It's a spy game. Oh, cool. If you leave it at that, somebody goes James Bond, somebody goes Austin Powers, and somebody goes into Jason Bourne, and that shit's...
Or you explain all that, or you say the tone, because that's part of tone.
Yeah.
You mention the tone, and you still get those.
Yeah, the best is when you get Austin Powers shows up, you're like, God damn it.
Well, Austin Powers is inevitable because they're going to be. There's always one.
There's a Joker. There's a Joker. Every group's got a Joker.
Oh, you're the Joker. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I love you. Go sit over there. What? Yeah, with this muzzle on.
One or two, fine, but
yeah. But anyway, I think if you can hammer on tone, one of the things that it does, even if somebody forgets, neglects, accidentally / on purpose, accidentally, I swear, no, you're really doing it. However that works, you have something to reference back. The rest of the group also has an ability to help that player. It's not just you as the game master has to do this. I started doing that. My buddy Nick is running the 2D20 game. His older sister's playing with us, and Bernie's great. She likes problem solving and clues, and she's a big fan of mysteries. She's having a lot of fun. She's played Star Wars with us. This is basically her second role-playing game ever. And she knew her younger brother Nick has always done this, and she wanted to do this. Now, Bernie is wicked smart. She's like, at this point, she's a CFO for hire type of person. She's brilliant. She knows, she's really smart. A lot of fun. But she looks around to the players. She stopped asking Nick because she doesn't want to talk to her brother, right? So it's kind of fun. Where she turns and looks at me or Dave or Alpha or Beta and says, hey, I want to do this. How would I do that? Right? So she's looking at us to help her conform to the genre, to the zone we're in, whatever it is. And so that's really cool because she's referencing back to the tones and themes. So where I'm going with that is that as a group, when someone is like, and they lock up on you, say, hey, remember Cold Shadows, Cold War, think Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, remember that? Oh, yeah, that example. Okay, a dead drop. Yeah, that's what I should do. We should set up a dead drop. That's what we should do, right? And you can coach people at the table through the, because sometimes the examples, if they only come from the game master, it can become, as Ray was saying, a little more prescriptive feeling. Because we as game masters try to give things out in multiples. Sometimes the classic is 3 options. We can sit there and wait around. You could punch him in the face with your sword, or you could try to do something fancy like, trip him or something. The player heard, do nothing, stab him, or trip him.
Right.
And then 3 fights later, you're like, so why are you just trying to trip everybody? Well, you said I could trip people.
I'm a trip. That's my tripper.
That's my thing. It's what I do is I trip people.
I'm Jack Tripper.
Yeah. Do you agree with me though, Sean? If the players at the table help each other out and kind of help set that, like from an example perspective, I think you get a broader bevy of examples for the group, and it doesn't seem as prescriptive because the game master's not the only person giving you ideas. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because I have seen that. I remember asking you back to use the Star Wars example again, like, so what do I do? How do I do it? And then Austin or Kevin would be like, hey, you could do. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Because you throw something at me. The rest of the group would be like, hey, Brett's not getting it. Do this. And they would chime in, which to me is great people to have at your table, right? They're helping you out.
So Brett was always not the tripper. He was always the mechanic guy. He was always I'm the fixer. I fix the ship. That's what I do.
That's what I do forever.
Hey, he's like Joe Pesci. Hey, I fixed the ship.
Exactly.
I'm a ship guy. Hey.
No matter how useless that is, all day long, forever. If the players get in on this, I think it helps to take some of the literalness from the game master's examples. The other thing I found when I give examples, especially to new players, is I say, well, technically you could do anything you want. Now, if I were playing your character in this situation, given you everything you had, I would think one of these couple things might be something that you might like to do. And sometimes the player will look at you like, well, would you like to do something similar to this, but maybe change a little bit? You don't have to take what I'm saying verbatim. Do you want to, instead of dropping atomic elbow and die a real man's death on the Atiug, would you rather light it on fire with your oil flask? Oh, yeah, that does sound better. Oh, that sounds safer. I'll do that instead. And sometimes I think the other component is examples of things you can do in a situation that are so either diametrically opposed or so not connected, just really far apart from each other. Range, you could run away, you could stay and fight, you could try to rescue your friend, you could trip the monster, just trying to throw different things out there instead of saying, well, you've got a mace and a dagger, and if I were you, it's a skeleton, I'd use this. Instead of getting that noodly, I think sometimes giving a broad range of examples can help. So, Sean, when you run into it, when someone looks at you and sometimes to Eric Salzwiedel's point, it is on the character sheet. It tells you what you can do, right? But sometimes people look at it and they do get, vapor lock in their brains, or click. I don't know what to do. How do you do examples for folks? Do you give them out in threes? Do you try to source a table for it? What do you find works for you?
So I would prefer to give them examples based on the situation that they're in and the character type that they're playing. So, hey, you're dwarf fighter, let's get away from D&D examples. You are a special forces soldier in Delta Green that's primarily set up for demolitions. Maybe you're a breacher.
Yeah,
breach
blow
doors.
Shit up, please.
You blow shit up. All right. Given the situation where you are, you're at the door, the party's kind of wandering around. What you could do is take out one of your flash grenades and, kick open the door, throw one in there and see, disorient anybody that might be in there. That's one option. You could wait for somebody else to go. Now, that's what I would do. But going back to you, Brad, I didn't want that to slip through. So the players, having other players say, hey, or somebody saying, hey, I don't know, what should I do? I've had players at the table be quiet because they want people to play their character. Like, it's your character. I don't want to say anything.
Yeah, that's a definite danger too. And the other, I should say, that is a weird, slippery, dangerous, icy path, right? Some people are like, look, it's your character, you do what you want. And other people take great pleasure in driving your character for you because they're going to do it better than you.
Yes.
And then the poor person is like, well, I guess I suck at this game. If only, thank God Sean's here to tell me how to run my breaching guy.
Right. Or what happens, and I've had this happen with with the gang that I've gamed with, is that the person will do something and then whatever happens. But the initial shock is, oh no, don't do that. And then the trigger is drops.
Yeah.
And you start moving forward and they're like,
whoa, what did you do?
I can't believe you just did that. Why did, and the person looks around and says, but nobody said anything.
Yes.
I was wondering what I should do. Nobody spoke up. So what should I do? I was playing my character. I lifted the box. I opened the trap. And now everybody's like, oh God.
Yeah, some people do.
Jesus.
They do lose their shit. Yeah. One of the things I've done to try to curtail some of that shit is when people, if someone's providing helpful advice, we had somebody the other day when we were playing Conan, Bernie was doing something, and one of my fellow gamers was like, this is what you should do. And it was very obvious by Bernie's face. Bernie did not want to do that. So Alpha said, now remember, it's your character. You could do whatever you want. You could take that advice, you could leave that advice, or some variation on that advice.
No pressure.
Yeah, that's
no
a good
pressure.
Idea. No pressure. But hey, look, you're not obligated to do what the most senior person at the table told you to do. In Bernie's case, being a newer gamer. And that's the thing, as a game master, Nick was helping with that too in that case. And then I do that when I game master as well, is someone gives you an idea, you give them some ideas, someone else chips in, then you stop the noise and say, okay, cool, good. Everyone's said their piece. Eileen, it's up to you. Sean, it's up to you. Trevor, it's up to you. What is it you're going to do? All right, Otis, Ray, get up here. What are you doing? We talked it over. You've got ideas. What are you going to do? Sounds like you're going to do one of these three things. Number 2 it is, and then off you go. Sometimes there's the writer's table.
Then you get the turtle man. Too many decisions.
Yeah, sometimes that's where the writer's table can get to be too much.
Right.
Where people can be banging stuff around, then no, do this, no, do that. Tantamount to reaching across and grabbing your mini and moving it on the table for you. That type of bullshit. There's definitely a balance. A good gaming group of people who are respectful, enjoy each other's company, game well together, will not do that shit.
Right.
We will all have mistakes, but the main thing is, from my perspective, if the players are helping out, which I always enjoy that they do, my job then is to stop the debate, stop the narration. Okay, now it is your turn, player number 1. You're the one who's got the spotlight right now. And sometimes the answer is, okay, do you know what you want to do now, or would you like to think about it a little bit further? Because you can think about it. I can just move on to the other person. Oh, cool. Thank you. And you just let the pressure off. Because that's another one. Sometimes the pressure is just too much. And sometimes it's like, look, if you're using a very strict initiative combat system, you say, look, if you want to, you can just reset to 20. Or if you want to, you can hold your action for now. Or some other rule that doesn't actually apply in this game system, but I'm going to make up right now, so I give you 10 minutes of time. There is no need to use initiative mechanic to beat someone over the head. Like, you must make a decision now. God damn it. You've had 10 examples. Pick one. Time's moving. And sometimes it's like, look, what I'm going to do is everyone else will go, you'll go last. You'll keep your initiative round, but right now you go at 1 for this round. Then you're back to where you were. Okay, yeah, let's do that because I just don't know what to do. I've had that happen. I've used that type of thing, and people are usually pretty groovy with it.
Now, going back to Salzwedel's example, I think, obviously there's some validity in Mr. Salzwedel's example.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I give him a credit. He's a smart gamer from Wisconsin. He has his moments. I've gamed with him a couple times, at least once.
Funny, he doesn't admit ever gaming with you.
Well,
Carry on.
It's that one time in Niagara Falls, I guess. And I think his specific component, I would typically point out something that maybe has to do with gear. Like if there is gear on the sheet that can help do something at a particular time. Or if it's an ability that is inherent at that particular time and the player isn't used to playing the game, this particular system, or they're at a convention game and they don't play it a lot or whatever, then I think looking at the game, the character sheet comes into play and certainly, but if it's something where you're playing a game with your home group for a decent amount of time with the same game, same system, same folks, then looking at the character sheet, a lot of this probably doesn't even apply, the discussion piece.
I'll tell you what, though, man, when I went to my first edition Greyhawk game, they've got more gear, magic item-wise. A couple random potions, a few pieces of this, a ring of comfort, a this, a that. So they've got some gear, right? And because of that, what happened in a 5e game, for whatever reason, everyone's like, I have this, I have this, I have this. Everything's like very tactical feeling. In the 1E game, the tactical feel isn't there. Maybe because I don't have minis or pogs on the table type of thing. But I have hearkened back to what I used to do when I ran first ed ages back in high school, when my buddy Eric would do it. One of the things he would do when he'd look at us, go, God, I don't think we can get out of it. He'd be like, hey, guys, you got a potion, you got a wand, you got some weird magic item out there. Eric knew, ding, ding, we had the weird magic item. We forgot we had it because we had collected God knows how much crap that we bought, sold, traded, and somebody had an ever-smoking bottle. And Eric went, use the ever-smoking bottle right now. It would totally get you out of this jam.
Right.
But we forgot because we thought it was a useless fucking item. So it was in the back. A decanter of endless water. Whatever. Whenever I need a drink, I'll pull that out. It's in the portable hole. Right? So you have a portable hole, and everybody dumps their shit in it. And somebody goes, what the fuck is in that thing? So my guy's got a couple really tight scrapes and a few fights, and I said, anyone have a healing potion? Anything you guys can do? Any rando item you've got? Someone goes, who the fuck got that list? I was like, that's me. Hang on. They pull it out. Sometimes that statement is enough to get people to look at the character sheet, check for gear, right? And I think that's how I have started getting people kind of pulling back from my route as an old school gamer. And telling people, like, look, do you have anything? Does your character have anything on him right now that could be helpful? Let me check. Oh, I got Thieves' Picks. What's in Thieves' Picks? Oh, there's a small hammer. I'm going to take that hammer. I'll wreck my Thieves' Picks and cram it in the gear so I can stop the thing from happening. Done. Moving on. It's creative use. It's weird. No one would have thought about it, but I forced them to look at their sheet, and then they became creative because then they had puzzles that this piece will fit. This one's from a dog picture. This one's from a duck, but it's the same shape. I'll cram it in there and I'll fill the hole, So I found that has worked well for me in the past, and I've started pulling it back out because it's helped to cut on some frustration on my part. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I think painting the picture a little bit too, or even giving that one person a little bit more so that they have a even better picture. Because I think with maybe these apply to more newer players or players that don't play as much.
Or the game system's new.
Or the game system's new. But I specifically would say not playing as much because I think even if the game system is new, one of the games that I think a lot of people would look at their character sheets for would be like Feng Shui. Because those are archetypes that have certain shticks. Like you're playing Drunken Master. What can you do? You're not carrying a gun. So it's like move based. Like, yes, it's improvisation. So you read that stuff.
Yeah, if you're Chow Yun Fat doing gun fu, you better do some fucking gun fu because that's your thing.
You got to kind of figure out like, oh, I'm playing this guy because this guy or woman does this.
Which is actually it's a really helpful way to think about superhero games when we've talked about supers kind of not being necessarily our deal. But when you do play a supers game, if someone says, hey, you're like Wolverine, be like, that's your thing.
Sure.
You know, Wolverine inside.
I don't know who Wolverine is, Brett.
Yeah, shut up the hell you don't. You know,
Brett's Wolverine.
You don't know what the fastball special is, though, I know. But when Colossus used to pick Wolverine up and chuck him in the Sentinels so he could shred him, that was a signature move that those two from the X-Men figured out. And that's the thing, though, that's part of that whole piece. And if you look at your character sheet, we've said this before, your fighter, hit him in the face.
Right? Yeah, I got to punch him in the face, man.
Your gun guy, shoot him. You know, shoot the monster, shoot the thing. Even in Delta Green, I will occasionally have to remind people that, yes, you know that player know that you can't technically shoot this monster because you know you're a player. I understand this Cthulhu. Guns probably won't solve this problem, nor will dynamite, nor will fire. It probably is something different. Your character, though, has an MP5K. Why would he not unload a few rounds of 9mm into that thing just to see what it does, right? Because you don't know. You've got a gun, the deep one, this horrible slavering fish frog monster galumphing its way down the hallway. You probably shoot it. Well, I know bullets probably won't affect it, so I don't know what I can do. I've heard that in a Call of Cthulhu game and in Delta Green. Well, I really can't do anything because I know that this won't even affect the monster. Fucking shoot it. What are you doing? You know, why will you not do that?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like a defeated and they're looking to either quit in some way or they really don't have any ideas. And it's turned into a defeatism where the player's like, well, bullets don't really help, so I'm not sure what to do. And I see that from some of the most experienced gamers, that approach, because they don't want to ask for help. I think that's the reason. This is my pop psychology piece, and somebody much smarter than me, psych-wise, I'm looking at Nilbert, will tell me if I'm right or wrong. But I think sometimes my most senior gamer at the table, when I've heard that before, that person is saying, I don't know what to do. I'm really at a loss. But I can tell you what won't work. But I don't know what will. I don't know what to do. Right? But they've kind of taken up a I gave up tone type of thing. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, going back to what I was going to say is that before Feng Shui entered the picture is that because a lot of folks that have that problem for a couple different reasons. And one big one is that they've lost the creative aspect of imagining what is going on. Like they have a high level understanding. But if you ask kids, it goes back to like playing pretend and having them come up with all kinds of kooky stuff when they're kids. It's because they haven't been jaded by a freaking adulting.
Yeah, you gotta. It's the cliche: think outside the box, man. What are you gonna do?
It is totally.
My example is take your thieves' tools and cram them into the gears.
Yeah.
Do something. You know?
Right. And so it's not just a matter of them not knowing because they're not familiar with the system or they're not familiar with the situation. And they may need more stuff, like more. This is what's around you. This is what's in your pack. This thing is moving and you want to stop it from moving. Ideally,
yes.
You can do that or have one of your partners do it. It's your turn to go. Here's some options. And I think that giving some of that more like color or spoon feeding them, right?
Yeah, we've talked about that before. Like when it's someone's turn or you're doing this massive narration, you say, okay, guys, just a second. So top of the round. Let me reset the stage for you. Here's what's going on. This portal opening, machine gun fire, cultists over here. You've got to stop that. What do you do? And then you can kind of fade back. Or even if that person looks at you and says, remember, this is what's going on. That's right. That thing was a red herring in this fight. I should go do this thing. Or even if there is no fight going on, you're just looking. You're like, I don't even know where to go. Do I go right? Do I go left? Or do I go down the stairs? Which way do I go? I don't know.
What would you like to do? Like, what is your end goal? I want to stop that guy. I want to stop that machine, that mechanic.
Yeah, and the sound of the machine and the mechanic and the smell from that horrible monster is coming from downstairs. Well, guess I go downstairs. You can move it along.
You've got a few options. You've got a gun. You can shoot. You've got, and you can get some of the feedback from some folks that kind of know. You kind of know they're a little not. They're not playing a ton, or sometimes players that play a lot come up with this. They're like, I know what I'll do. There's this big gear, like this big wheel moving, and you're like, okay, what do? I pull out my 22 caliber pistol and I shoot it to stop it.
It's a terrible idea.
And dink! And everybody at the table that's kind of like knows that the person's relatively newer, everything it's a con game, right? It's the con game. One person comes up with a suggestion, and they think it's like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take out my 22 my gun, because that's like big, right? And I'm going to shoot the gear, and then it's going to stop the gear. And you're kind of like,
good thought. That's not big enough. Your character would know that caliber isn't going to pull that off. Yeah.
But so it's kind of like this. You always get the weird kind of dynamic.
But you want to work with
Brett,
them, though.
Brett did it to me. Brett did it.
What did I do?
Brett did it to me. Brett, you're on the ship. I'm running scans, Sean. Can I see scans? Can I get can I get visual of the group going out into the jungle? Yeah, you can, Brett. Sure. Give me a scan roll. 3 successes, Sean. Great. You watch him go out into the wilderness.
Yeah.
Great. All right, cool. And then you notice that there's another oncoming group, kind of on an intercept course. Oh, okay. All right, Sean.
I shoot him.
I'm on the ship.
Is that what I shoot?
I'm on the ship. I'm going to shoot him. I'm going to shoot him from the ship, Sean. Can I do that? I could do that, right? I'm on the ship. It's got guns. It's got lasers on the top. Yeah, Brett. You can take the Millennium Falcon and shoot out into the jungle. Like an artillery piece. Sure. Brett has done that.
Yes, I have. That's a bazooka to hunt cockroaches. That's what it
Brett's
did.
I got a M109 howitzer, I could 155 out, right. Like I could volley it out over there.
And Sean's
Star Wars.
No. This is more like a huge thing that cuts holes through ships. So good luck with that.
Maybe if you're on Naboo and you got big blue balls that you loft at the bad droids, maybe.
You can let me do it anyway.
I did let him do it because I was, it's hard as a game master to shut down people like that.
Well, I'll tell you the other. It absolutely is. I want to hit this one piece before we bail on this though. Ray talked about being too literal and this is the only option, the only thing you can do. I honestly think one of the pieces to do as your fellow players and as the game master is when someone is repeating, you're hitting the same note, ding, 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 ding. That's the only thing that they're doing. You can say, look, you do have other options because it won't take long and that person will hit a level of frustration with the one note. Like, oh, I'm a fighter. I have to fight. Whack, 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 whack. Miss, 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 miss. What have you learned? Well, it's not taking any damage. What is damaging it? Well, magic from the wizard and the cleric. You could back up, go full defensive. Oh, yeah, that's right. You can go full defensive. That way, you can't hit it anyway, but you'll get a big bonus, so it stops raining 20 points of damage on you around. Oh, yeah, that's a good call. Sometimes it just takes a, hey, knock, 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 tap on the forehead, McFly. You don't need to do that. And as politely as possible, or if you're one of my friends who I've known for 30 years, as rudely as possible. Hey, motherfucker, what the hell are you doing? It's the dumbest thing you could do. How stupid are you?
Yeah, I'm already calling the Forbidden Lands guys yahoos. Like, hey, yahoos, you got this stuff yet?
But in jokes aside, right, is that when somebody's doing it, especially if it's a new player and they take it too literal, you can say, hey, now remember, that worked before and that's cool, but you also have other options. And then you can go through the other things that you gave them last time that they chose not to do, or they've learned more. They've realized that the 22 caliber pistol is not the thing to shoot the big, 50 gauge steel gear that spins, or whatever the case is. So I think to stop the literal component is when as soon as you note the literal cadence of always this, nothing else, is help them break that.
Well, and as your example, you could say, because you're a fighter, you also understand when you should not be fighting, or you're ineffective. Or
I love that, because one of the cool things that creates. I'm glad you brought that up because I forgot about it. One of the things that creates is the player looks at you and says, my character is a lore master. My character is, a space samurai. My character is this thing. My character's smarter at this than I am. Can you help me? Is the question being asked. What, as a fighter, as a person who survived jungle warfare. Brett has never been in the jungle, never survived jungle warfare, no fucking idea. I have never been in a, first man in a breaching team. I don't know what that does. Even if you don't, just give me something I can try, or that sounds reasonable, because the last thing I want to do is say, well, I think this makes sense, walk in and get my head blown off, or put everybody else in danger because I did the dumbest thing the front man in a breaching team would do, or did the dumbest thing a wizard with a 19 intelligence would do, right? Why? I didn't know that this was dumb. I thought it was smart. So don't yell at me. I'm sorry, So I love that idea, Sean, because it does bring, by doing that, you're opening the door for the player to say, remember how last time, or some variation on this theme, you helped me figure out what my character would know that I don't? Is there any other wisdom somebody could hand me? Because I am at a loss. And I think that's very powerful. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And I think, again, kind of at least from my side, I think the other piece is that good players will help do that with each other. And they won't demand, cajole, or try to force anybody to do their cool idea. They'll give ideas and say, but it's your character, you do what you want, or some version of that. Here's something your character could do that I think would be cool, is a really good way to get someone to perk up their ears and go, oh, you think that'd be cool. And someone else goes, yeah, that'd be fucking wicked. All right, I think I'm in. Other people are telling you this would be cool, not what you ought to do, or what I would do if I were you. It's like, this would be really cool. This could really help the team if you did. That type of language as a player to your fellow players, I think, is more effective than, here's what you ought to do, or anything like that, because that's too demonstrative. It's too me telling you how to play your character, as opposed to saying, wouldn't it be neat if? And which is a much more fun conversation. So,
yeah.
Anything else, man?
No.
All right. Thank you, Ray, for the topic, brother. I think we got another one coming up from him at some point, but let's move on to die roll.
Yeah, thanks, Ray. Die roll. 2 to 4 miscellaneous points of gaming and geekery we want to bring to you. First one, Gaming and BS hats are now available.
Yeah, I got to get one.
You could head to gamingandbs.com/hats. Get a lid.
A toque. Something.
Brett wears a hat almost every stream.
That's because if I don't do that, it's like just this mess of crap.
So we need to stop advertising Vortex Optics.
Hey, this is Matthew's bows are my favorite. Come on now. Oh, all right, fine.
And we'll get Brett a Game and BS hat. Only thing is they're all black, so I got to get Brett one of them like khaki looking ones that he wears.
There's a gray one, isn't there?
I think there's a gray one. There's a gray beanie, I think, like this.
Cool, I'll get in on it. I'm doing that.
Yeah.
You sent me notes and said, hey, hats are out there. I'm like, fuck, I gotta go get one. I need a
hat. Second one of us from Starry Wisdom. Look at this, I got this thing right next to me. From Starry Wisdom Press, aka Tim DeShane and Joey Macrino. Zine.
Yep, mine's on my bookshelf. Yep.
is available.
It's a good looking zine, man.
It is. They did a very fantastic job. Welcome to the Dust Bowl. It says, you are no hero. You are a carny indentured to the mysterious being known as the Madam. In exchange for wondrous powers and a more perfect self, the Madam calls upon you to procure magnificent artifacts as you crisscross the dusty and dangerous remains of a once robust and proud land. Cannibal hobos, shadowy cults, and the uncouth hecklers will do everything in their power to prevent your caravan from carrying out its mission. Grab your barbells and bullwhips and hop on the caravan to adventure. We accept you. We accept you. One of us.
I know Tim was he was running behind on the zine, and I gotta say, this is one of those cases where I'm really glad he stuck it out and put out the product.
Yeah.
Because you at any given point, and Tim, if you hear this, man, kudos to you, brother, because creating something, I can tell you from firsthand experience, is tough. There was a point before my Avalon Kickstarter went, I distinctly remember calling up Phil and Chris at Encoded and saying, I don't want to do this.
What?
And Chris is like, the fuck is wrong with you? Which is only a true friend would tell me that. I'm like, I think I'm just scared. I'm nervous. I don't know what to do. He goes, it's going to happen. It'll be fine. Sit down.
That is hilarious.
It was like, but it's just, it's tough. There's a lot of energy and effort that goes into a thing. And generally speaking, I don't mind if people are late as long as they explain what's going on and talk about what's happening and so forth. And I think this is a great product. It turned out really, really well, Tim.
Yeah, so it's for DCC primarily.
Yeah, it's DCC. But Tim and Joey should be proud of this. I think they did a good job.
There you go. Some props. Third one, Cyberpunk Random Scenario Generator. Yeah.
I think. Speaking of Cyberpunk, dude, just to throw this out, I think I may have some interest in a Cyberpunk Red game with my home group after I'm done with. Just I've never run. I think I might have them. So
if you read character gen, you'll be like, ooh.
Yeah, I started like hitting through the book, like reading bits and pieces. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be good. This is gonna be good.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think you'd enjoy that. Scientists accidentally discover strange creatures under a half mile of ice.
And if anybody hasn't read Mountains of Madness by H.P. Lovecraft, go read that, and you'll understand why I'm silently screaming.
I said this on Saturday, man. Shit it's freaking Cthulhu down there. Like, it's all these questions in the article. I'm like, it's not that hard, people. It's Cthulhu. That's why there's something down there. That's why it survives in the darkness with no oxygen and all that kinds of pressure. It's because of Cthulhu. It's not that hard.
It's a fucking Shoggoth. Move on. It's a Shoggoth. You go down, you go crazy, it'll eat you.
I told everybody we're not going to hear anything more about it after this week. Like, it'll just like.
That'd be funny.
Nothing will come from it. The next one, the Libram Society. Some guy's doing a podcast on reading books.
What?
Yeah.
We don't know any. All right, Hobbs can't read.
Hobbs and Arlen.
Hobbs can't read. I'm glad he brought a friend. I'm kidding you, Jason. That's awesome. That's cool.
He's in there. So he's doing that on Wednesday nights at 6:30 Central Time. 6:30, Hobbsy, I think. He told me in the Discord chat. Hey, man, give me a plug on die roll, dude. There you go, bro.
No, that's cool, man. That's awesome.
So, yeah, it's a stream first, and then he's going to put the audio out after the fact. So he did the first one solo, which is not easy.
No, it is not. You've told me about that. I'm like, oh, I don't know if I could do a solo one.
So check that out. Stuff, and he's trying to relate it to stuff you could use in your games. So he's, it's a big fantasy bend to it.
That's smart.
And, yeah. And then the last one, but not the least one, Streets of Avalon Urban Character Options.
Cool. Yeah.
It came out in 2019, but it's still a good one. Go and check it out on drive-through. Brett, any comments?
No, I was gonna say I really like it. I'm pretty proud. I'm really proud of just the Urban Ranger, Urban Barbarian. How we came up with some stuff there. It also prompted Phil, Chris, and I were talking not that long ago about what's apart from the PIP system conversion, the other stuff I want to get done this year. for Avalon and some of those classes and just retooling and stuff. I think it'd be a lot of fun. And one of the things I brought up on the show when I was recording this last Wednesday with Craig Shipman was I talked about the adventures that are out there too. So Iron Shoes, Blacksmith's Folly, those two are some what I would call honestly, it's only a year old from the Out to the World product, but it's a very classic how I set up adventures within Avalon. So if you're interested in not only some of the adventure ideas and hooks within the main book itself, but just a self-contained piece. And it's something that I think would translate to other systems as well. So other settings, as well, those adventures. So cool. Thanks, man, for bringing it up. I appreciate it.
Of course, man. I got to give some Avalon love out there.
Shipman gave me shit. He's like, you have a product out there and you don't pump it every fucking show. What is wrong with you? I'm like, I'm terrible at doing that. I need to do it more. I
brought it up at the end of one of the shows, like as the credits and after the Patreon, and somebody, it might have been Craig, like, finally, an Avalon promo.
Yeah. Yep, I got to get better at that, so that's definitely got to happen. So, anyway, thank you, Sean.
I'm sure BSers want the scoop if there's anything in the works other than the PIP system. So
yeah, I've got to get once. So I'm working with No Secret. VC Young and I have been working on a mapfolio concept. VC's a great cartographer, as you've seen by some of the stuff he's produced for us and just other people. So right now, Coded owes me the conversation back to say, hey, let's talk about timelines so we can get things locked and loaded. Because I really want to get those the map idea out there that VC has, which I think is awesome. And then I want to start cranking out some of the other stuff. Even if it's just, I have that trinket list. I've got other stuff that would be helpful for your players and your game masters in the setting. And I think it's definitely worth cranking out a few. Even if they're small stuff, eventually, maybe it could lead to a big Kickstarter where you combine all the stuff into a redone book or something. But in the meantime, there's no reason not to keep cranking out some stuff that would be helpful and useful for players and game masters alike. So
I want a rogues gallery of Avalon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's one of them. I gotta get some NPC. I gotta get an NPC list. People I've used throughout the years, and pull out some more magic items that I've had in the past, artifact level stuff that's out there. Yeah, it's gotta happen. Absolutely. Cool. Shall we?
What are we talking about next week, bruh?
We're talking about being a tourist.
Oh boy, should I wear my camera? Bring my camera out?
You might have to. So Jim Fitzpatrick back on episode 236, excuse me, 326. Good God, I'm crossing my numbers. He said this is about being a tourist. And what he means by that is, do you do anything special if you know you're going to play a system or genre you don't usually play in that you may not even have much exposure to? How do you play space opera game if you've never seen a space opera show? How do you play a superhero in MCU when you don't know what the fuck the MCU is? So I've got more notes in the next list for you, Sean. But take a look through that. But that's what we're going to talk about. You good?
Sweet. Yeah, I'm good, man. Let's blow this pop stand.
All right.
So, hey, for those of you that are not here presently, we do stream on Monday nights at 8 p.m. Central Time. Tune in on Twitch. We'll have a link in the show notes to Twitch. Otherwise, you can find this on YouTube's eventually. So give us a like and subscribe there on the YouTubes. Otherwise, you can find this at your podcatcher of choice. Subscribe, please.
And remember, folks, as we talked about at the top of the show, check out our forums for more information on the games that are being offered, run, and how to get involved in that stuff. I think it'd be fun. Even if you're like, well, don't even think about it. If you're like, I don't necessarily have time to run. You want to play? You want to get in a one shot? Think about it that way too. There's a lot of game masters out there saying they're willing to do stuff. They're going to need players. And the last thing we need is a big raft of GMs and no one to play. So get out there, poke around. We good?
Yes, please. Yes. So, I'm Sean.
And I'm Brett. Good night. Good game at all.
This episode of Gaming and BS produced with help from the following BSers: Jared Rasher, Ray Otis, Old School DM, Jason Hobbs, Andy Hall, Roger Braslett, Chris Steele, Larry Houp, Eric Frankhouse, Tony Sugarloaf Baker, Mark Tasaka, Pure Mongrel, C.W. Mellencamp, Dan LaValle, Craig Huber, Ron Bishop, Old Schools Role Playing, Jim Fitzpatrick, Mark Richmond, Sky, Craig, Howard Bishop, Jeff Seifert, Angus, Eric Salzweedle, George Sedgwick, Robert Nemeth, Brian Kurtz, Laramie Wall, Perry Basor, Eric Avia, Andy Olson, John Kayward, Corey Gonzalez, Niall Diamond, Jeff Goad, Brian Rumble, David F. Blaylock, Harrigan, Melissa Bashinsky, Henry Newcomb, Colcago, Eric Tavola, Huskarl, Ghost GM, Mike Hess Jr., Rory Weston, Jim Ingram, Daniel Garrett, Jason Weeb, Dollar Adventure Frameworks, Phil McClory, Jay Plata, Duke and Purple, Isaiah Aries Christian, Larry Hollis, Quigley Malcolm, AWOL Trooper, Craig Shipman, Todd Sharp, Orcus Dorcas, Chris Shore, Michael O'Holland, Wayne Peacock, Mike Coleman, Tendrils, Miniature Master, Kevin Keneally, Christopher Lang, Chad Glayman, Josh Wallace, Adam Grotjohn, Ed Nyes, Corey Welch, Mirko Froelich, Rich Wishan, Joe Swick, Curtis Takahashi, and Aaron Ralia. Hey, make sure to go to gamingnbs.com/games. That'll take you to a forum post. In that forum post, we'll list a spreadsheet as well as a place to post your games or to find new games that you might want to try out that you haven't played before. It'll also give you an opportunity to meet other BSers. And that's all just for being you, a role-playing gamer that's a fan of the show. Check it. Thanks, BSers.
This has been a Litterbox Studio production.